Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you on this Saturday morning as we lock ourselves in. Make sure to fasten those seatbelts and keep those tray tables in the upright and locked position as we make our initial descent into Sydney, Australia. UFC 293, 12 fights, 9 of which are currently favored to end inside the distance. And we have some fireworks on tap down under. And another thing we need to mention, these fighters all had a few extra hours to rehydrate themselves after making those horrific weight cuts. And there were a few of them out there. The curtains were pulled for about 5 or 6 fighters. Let's get to the nitty gritty, my brothers. We have a matchup that possibly should not be taking place in the UFC to kick things off. A fight, the curtain jerker, Kiefer Crosby taking on Kevin Jousset. Kevin Jousset coming in as the minus 185 betting favorite. One of the concerns I have here is Jousset's lack of head movement. He's got a wiry frame. And this is a fighter who has not faced the best competition. He does have some semblance of a path to victory if he follows a game plan. But you look at the other side of the fight here, Kiefer Crosby. I was watching a matchup of his in Bellator where he fought O'Leary, and one of the things right off the bat that was said was Crosby does not like to follow game plans. He just goes as he pleases, takes the fight wherever he needs to. And he got brutalized in that matchup against a journeyman. And here, one thing I'll say, Kiefer Crosby also, those step-in elbows are a real threat against a fighter in Jousset whose defense is not his game, Jousset. So in this matchup, I like the unders here. Fight doesn't go the distance is on the table. I'll be picking Jousset, but not the highest level of skill on either side of this fight. Both of these fighters, I believe Crosby's 33 years old, Jousset 30 years old. How did this fight get booked? But hey, folks want to see finishes. This is likely one of those situations. Next bout of the night where we have Shane Jung, who missed weight. Catastrophic weight miss for Shane Jung. Remember, this is a fighter who basically got decapitated by Ludovic Klein, who missed weight. And if y'all remember, Israel Adesanya made a big stink about that in his post-fight speech about taking money from folks, their purses, etc. So Shane Jung misses weight. Look at this line. Down to minus 122. This is Shane Jung was in the minus 170s or so. Now, we're getting close to a pick'em here, and he's taking on a Gabriel Miranda, who is a fighter who's going to fight hard for your money, somebody who was in way over his head against St. Denis last time out. And this fight takes place at 145 pounds, so we'll get to see Miranda here on a full camp, ready to go. I'll be picking the underdog here. Now, the situation we have also, we must be honest with ourselves. Although Shane Jung is a bit of a punching bag out there, he has been a survivor in certain spots. I know lately he's coming off of 3 losses in a row where he was soundly beaten. And if you're losing to Omar Morales, things are not going well. Gabriel Miranda, explosive fighter. He's going to be my pick here. I'll be picking Gabriel Miranda. Shane Jung, we know he throws punches in bunches. And can that Sydney crowd lift him up one more time to cross the finish line? I think that's a tall task. He lost the battle on the scales, and he may lose the fight tonight. Next up, where we have Blood Diamond, a.k.a. Mike Mathetha, taking on Charlie Radke. Charlie Radke, a CFFC fighter who is here. Also a fighter in his mid-30s. These aren't young up-and-comers here. And Blood Diamond has been exposed on the mat. Blood Diamond was brought in because of Israel Adesanya, right? And has a great story behind the scenes that brought him to the big stage, but I don't think he gets it done here. I'll be picking Charlie Radke. He has more paths to victory here. Also, in my eyes, has a better gas tank here and more weapons at his disposal. Blood Diamond will need to land a seminal blow on the feet to send Charlie Radke packing, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll be picking Radke inside the distance. But also, we must be mindful that these are not the greatest fighters here. These aren't fighters who we can really trust out there. And man, but you have to go with Radke here. I do not trust Blood Diamond. Next up, we have got Nasrat Haqparast taking on Landon Quinones. By the way, we've got a number of folks in the chat here. Before we get to that, let's say good morning to our good friend Lou Betcha. Lou, I have to break down some fights on air with you in the near future. Looking forward to it. Today is a blessed opportunity for us, and I'm grateful to be here sharing this moment with you. Tim, good morning. Good to see you. Benjamin, way to be. Haha. Good morning, Dan. Donnie, good to see you. Chuck Buffalo, Charlie Radke. What an interesting nickname. George, blessed morning to you and yours on this Saturday as we dive into Nasrat Haqparast, who he's southpaw who will go for it, but he also doesn't necessarily he's not a volume-based striker. He's somebody who's more of a distance management guy. And I know that Makdessi and Haqparast fought last time out. I ended up cashing on Haqparast, and we'll speak a little bit more in detail there. That left hand comes in like a piston, and Quinones, he did look great on the scale. I will say that Haqparast needed the curtain, and Haqparast has a solid camp behind him, has a good head on his shoulders. I have trouble personally with the whole Bobby Green situation. Bobby Green completely outboxing him and blowing him out of the water. Difficult trusting Haqparast as a minus 470 betting favorite. I do think that this line is a bit wide, and Quinones is going to bring the fight. Part of this, the reason that this line is what it is, Jason Knight got the better of Quinones here, a fighter who has many, many holes in his game. And Haqparast, is Haqparast going to come in here and look to grapple and ground Quinones? I don't necessarily think that will be his path to victory. Probably look to stay on the outside, land those straight punches, and use his range management. Let Quinones come to him and force the fight. Quinones is an aggressive fighter. I'm going to be picking Haqparast here, but no play on the bout. This is a fight up next that I do have some money on. We've got Jamie Malarkey taking on John Makdessi. A couple of weeks ago put out Jamie Malarkey, a play on him, 2 units at minus 190. This line has since blown out significantly. Malarkey's now minus 305 betting favorite, and I understand why folks have laid the chalk here on Malarkey. Makdessi, 38 years of age, not a wide frame Makdessi, not necessarily a grappler. His distance management is what sets him up for success. He's not necessarily a knockout threat, Makdessi. He does throw with power, but doesn't put people out. Makdessi, they call him the bull for a reason. He's going to dart in, dart out. Malarkey has been knocked out a number of times. And the reason that this line was in the minus 180s and 190s for Malarkey was because he's coming off of a brutal knockout where he did lose to a fighter who traditionally fights at 145 pounds. But this fight is in Malarkey's backyard. It also is an opportunity for Malarkey to get back on the horse and use his physicality here. He's been, Malarkey, a bit of a zombie. By the way, we saw Korean Zombie retire recently. Malarkey is a bit of a zombie in his own right here. If he remains conscious, this is his fight to win. One of the situations I'm a little concerned about, we must look at both sides of every fight, but Malarkey's pre-fight interview said he's going to be more of a tactician here. Try not to make mistakes. I think that's a recipe for disaster, though, if you try not to make mistakes. You need to be aggressive and go get what's yours. That's my motto. I also believe fighters should take that to heart as well. Use your physicality, use your strengths, use what got you to the big dance. And I believe Malarkey is going to end up doing that here and walking away with the victory. So that was my only play so far. The card was 2 units on Malarkey at -190, but I have my eyes on a few other opportunities, a few other plays. Good morning, Danny. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Let's continue this journey. So next up, we have Jack Jenkins taking on Jose Mariscal. Chepe Mariscal, +185 on Mariscal's side. You watched Jenkins, his last fight against Emmers, looked like the writing was on the wall there. The lack of wrestling defense, the takedown defense, getting swept. Real red flags for me on the Jenkins side. And then Mariscal, he's coming off of a victory over Trevor Peek, and Peek he's hell on wheels. He's hell on wheels, but he's also not a very talented fighter. He guns for the finish at all times, and Mariscal was a bit of a survivor in that spot, and Peek ended up making mistake after mistake after mistake, and Mariscal just took advantage of it there. Now he's fighting a Jenkins here who may lack a ground game, but when this fight's on the feet, he is going to be a tactician. We know those leg kicks are there. We know he's a cerebral fighter, and he's going to have the crowd on his side. Long story short, I think that we're going to see another controversial decision here on the Jenkins side. I think that he's going to walk away with the victory. I do think -225 is a little wide here. Mariscal is a smart fighter. He's the larger fighter. You watched the weigh-ins yesterday. By the way, we mentioned earlier that these fighters do have additional time to rehydrate. And Mariscal's, he's tough as nails, man. He made it out of that Peak fight, and he's gonna fight until the final bell. And Jenkins, it's gonna be on Jenkins to make Mariscal pay by closing the distance, chopping that lead leg, and then also the takedown defense on Jenkins. That needs to be rectified, because that is Mariscal's path to victory. If he's able to keep Jenkins underneath him, he could burn time in top position here, and then it could be a very, very sweaty bet for the folks who are holding Jenkins tickets. So I do think that Jenkins is going to be awarded a controversial decision victory here, but I understand why folks are on the Mariscal side. That makes a lot of sense. Now, we've got some additional Lou, you may want to say the decision was highway robbery. I agree to a certain extent. Marcus, good morning. Welcome aboard. I like the background there, reminiscent of a beautiful sunset. Now, you want to talk beautiful sunsets. This could be potentially a sunset for Jung here, taking on Carlos Ulberg, who is city kickboxing striker. Look, somebody who is going to land straight punches and welcomes a firefight where he will likely get the better of a lot of exchanges here. But one thing about Ulberg is he doesn't have the greatest gas tank. We saw against Kennedy's Chukwu. He emptied his clip there and then had nothing left. And Jung is a versatile fighter. I was at Jung's fight against Dustin Jacoby, and I saw it. He's a dangerous fighter. Now, Jung can he looks much more chiseled here. Looks like the adipose tissue has the body fat percentage has dropped. Now, is that going to be a recipe for success? Not necessarily here. If this fight does get extended, I think that Jung could potentially become live here, but the earlier the fight takes place, Ulberg is going to be live for a knockout, and I'll be picking Ulberg to win. I think also the crowd may be a factor in this matchup, but Jung, it's interesting how his career has played out. Talented, yes, but he's made some bad in-fight decisions, and the in-fight decision-making process could come back to haunt him once again here under the bright lights in Sydney, Australia. Tyson Pedro versus Anton Turkalj. Turkalj, the pleasure man, minus 112. Tyson Pedro, minus 108. Turkalj, couple of fights I watched him recently where the path to victory is there. And he just has a way of letting these fights slip through his hands. Clear path to victory in his last matchup, and he's fought some stiff competition. Tyson Pedro, we've seen the wheels fall off. Not a good look when you're fighting the carcass of Mauricio Shogun Rua and can't finish the job. And Tyson Pedro gets finished by Shogun down the stretch. I know it was a while ago. He's since had his knee fixed, etc., but I cannot get that out of my head. And I think that Pedro, though, that may have lit a fire under him. We saw against Makdessi Bukauskas, that was another issue that has red flags that have been raised. But I still believe that Pedro has what it takes to win this fight. I know Turkalj has the grappling and the jiu-jitsu on the mat to cause Pedro some serious problems. And Pedro, in his own right, has a semblance of a ground game. But Pedro, both of these fighters, defensively, are prone to making catastrophic errors. I think Pedro gets Turkalj out of there, though. I know Turkalj has a chin on him, but Pedro, I believe that he's going to come in dialed in here, and he's going to hurt Turkalj, and I'll be picking Pedro to win. Now, a fight that was run back after a few months. Justin Taffa's eye has healed up, and last time out, we saw only 29 seconds elapse. Austin Lane, who has been in there against Hardy and others, he's the physical specimen. He has the length. He has the athleticism. I believe he does have better cardio here. And Justin Taffa, no joke, he probably carries about 45 to 50 pounds of fat on his upper torso. And I don't know how at some point someone doesn't just step in and help him out here. He's a fighter who you got to wonder if he had his strength and conditioning up to snuff. And I know this has been his whole career. He's looked like this, but my heart goes out to Justin Taffa and the Taffa gang. They work hard. They're incredible, precise strikers, but also I believe that they're leaving a little extra fat on the bone that could come back to haunt them as they make their ascent throughout the heavyweight division here. But I'll be picking Taffa. I think that at some point he's going to end up knocking Austin Lane out. Austin Lane may come out and get off to a hot start like he was doing in the first iteration of this matchup. But I'll be picking Taffa. I think Taffa gets this done inside the distance, and then we get Taffa to take on a more talented, highly talented fighter, because that's what's going to happen here. You keep winning, and then you're going to face better competition. So give me Justin Taffa there. We've got a number of comments here. Let's see. Marcus is putting a sprinkle on Austin Lane. If Lane gets taken down, things could be over. How about also if Taffa gets taken down, he has difficulty getting back up to his feet. They are thick, yes, everywhere for the Taffa gang. But they're also very talented fighters, so we must show them respect in that regard. Now, flyweights, Manel Kape, Felipe dos Santos. Felipe dos Santos, only 22 years of age. That must be mentioned here. Younger fighters typically have energy regulation issues. And at 22 years old, the confidence is high, full of piss and vinegar here, taking on Manel Kape. And Manel Kape he's an assassin out there. He basically said in the press fight conference that he was going to murder this fighter here, and he was doing it because of Haqparast and his language in the lead up to this fight. So Manel Kape has a big point to prove. He's got a grudge on his shoulder, chip on his shoulder. And Felipe dos Santos, how about at the weigh-ins when dos Santos ended up pulling the sunglasses off of Manel Kape, or maybe that was a pre-fight press conference. That was a man, this kid is confident. Dos Santos. Dos Santos, a long fighter. He's going to get in Kape's face, and Kape's going to have opportunities to just tee off on Dos Santos. Now, can he get Dos Santos out of there? I think eventually he can, but this is one of those situations where the shoot it box fighters are going to fight until they're not there anymore. And we've seen it with so many Thomas Almeida, etc., throughout the course of time. I'll be picking Manal Kape here, and I think he does get a finish. But when I watch undefeated fighters, the other thing is some of them do have iron chins, and we haven't seen them cracked. We've never seen them cracked. So that is leading me to have some slight reservations with playing Fight Doesn't Go or the unders here. But I did see that the face-off, these guys were getting right in each other's face, and I think that that's what's going to happen right off the bat, that Manal Kape and Felipe Dos Santos, Felipe Dos Santos is going to march forward, and they're going to get tangled in each other's webs, and Manal Kape is going to come out on top. That is my prediction. Let's see. Love the kid here. Yeah, he's got some chutzpah, as they say. Kape looks ready to unleash hell. I agree. Elvis Brenner, deja vu. We'll see. Give me Kape and to win inside the distance. Next up, Tai Tuivasa taking on Alexander Volkov. Seen a lot on my timeline about picks on opposite sides of this fight. I believe that this is going to be one of those fights where Alexander Volkov is going to be looking like $1 million. He's probably going to end up being a minus 1,500 live betting favorite at some point during the fight. And then here comes Tai Tuivasa, and he flatlines Alexander Volkov. Man, this is one of the fights that I had some reservations when I was taping this fight. Volkov has so many paths to victory here. He could fight at range and win the fight. He could lock up a submission. He could take this fight to the mat. He could win the war of attrition. That's the issue here. Volkov, we know he's got a kicking game, likes to use his length. He's one of the rare heavyweights who uses his length very well. And we've seen Tuivasa, he has a quit button in him. He will quit. He will quit similar to Mark Hunt in a way where he gets hit to the body. He will check out of fights. The Sergey Spivak fight, when that fight hit the mat, we saw that Tuivasa wanted out there. And this fight here, it's one of those situations where I think you sit back, you watch Volkov get out to an early lead, and then you hit Tuivasa when he's much, much wider than a plus 200. I think he's going to end up possibly in the plus 4, plus 600 range, and then land a bomb. And that'll also, you have to pay attention to how the fight's unfolding, because there is a world in which Alexander Volkov walks away with a victory here. That must be mentioned, because Volkov is the much more highly skilled fighter here. But Tuivasa is so fluid. He is durable, Tuivasa, to a certain extent, but to the body, you want to talk about adipose tissue. I think it was 265.5 today or yesterday when he weighed in. Man, one of those fighters who get him a different camp, get him on a different strength and conditioning program, get him a sports psychologist, and let the wheels spin and watch his career manifest itself and metamorphosize into a successful endeavor. But sometimes you can't change who fighters are. And Tuivasa, he's a banger. That's who he is. And I think he ends up catching Volkov here. Long-winded, but that's the way I see this playing out. End of the day, it's you against you, my brother. I echo that sentiment, and I live that. So let's talk main event. Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. I believe this fight will likely be competitive early. Adesanya may look to stay at range and pepper Strickland with strikes, and that is likely going to be more intelligence gathering. We've seen some of the better fighters out there, Alexander Volkanovski, etc. Some of the greatest fighters, they look to Floyd Mayweather, etc. They will look to gather intelligence while they're fighting, and they don't come out for the kill right away. So that's what I believe is going to happen here. Sean Strickland is talented. It is all right. Yes, he does have a much better ground game than Israel Adesanya. But Adesanya here, the tactician, I believe he's out here to torture Sean Strickland. I think that's what Israel Adesanya's plan is. He's going to come out and try to make Sean Strickland look silly. He's going to chop those legs. And the longer this fight goes, when this fight ends up hitting rounds 3 or so, 4, I see Sean Strickland getting frustrated. By the way, the Cannonier fight, Sean Strickland was getting his head knocked back there. I know that was a close matchup, but Adesanya is a much better striker than Jared Cannonier. And this fight, I see the longer it goes, Sean Strickland throwing caution to the wind, the later this fight goes. And initially I was thinking, man, Strickland, tough as nails, will probably hit the scorecards here. But then I realized that Adesanya, I know he's out to torture Strickland, make him look silly, but I think that Strickland is going to force the action and march right into one of Israel Adesanya's strikes, and I think that's going to end this bout. So I'll be picking Israel Adesanya to win, but I am going to be pulling for Strickland here. I think that just imagine a win by Sean Strickland, that would knock the world off its axis here. That would shock a lot of folks. And Strickland, yes, he does have a path to victory on the mat, no doubt about it. And also the cardio of Strickland is solid, but the in-fight decision-making of Strickland, I mean, if he's not going to try to grapple with Alex Pereira, and his corner, I was listening to his corner in an interview talk about how just trying to get the leash on Strickland, no pun intended, trying to get him to follow commands here is really, really arduous. It's an arduous task. So give me Adesanya, and I believe that he does get this done inside the distance, but should be an exciting fight, and it should be an awesome card tonight. I'm really looking forward to this one. By the way, thank you for everybody for tuning in today. I appreciate you. If you have any questions in the chat box, you can fire them away real quick. Want to also put it out there that I put all of my plays this year out for free, and I have been busting my tail behind the scenes on a daily basis for weeks, months, years, and we've come out the other side with a positive ROI, really busting my butt. Everybody, just be aware that if you're third-party tracking your plays, look into folks, their betting record and how they proceed, how they pick their spots. Are they slinging 20, 30 plus units per card, or are they being methodical, taking a measured approach out there? I believe that there are different ways to skin a cat, yes, but my personal take, I try to pick my spots and have this be a measured approach. So go get what's yours. Dominate the rest of your Saturday. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. And go get what's yours. Yes, I think we'll see, 7 finishes. That's what I think we're going to see today. Have a great day. Let's do this.